Professor Andy Chan is Vice Provost of Research and Knowledge Exchange and a Professor of Fluid Mechanics at the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. In real life, he is a mathematician, an entomologist, and a fortune teller by profession. Prof. Andy is also an avid amateur traveler with bucket list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. We are glad to have him for a chat with us.
PhD, right, we are very specialized in a specific field. Do you think does it affect our job in future being a teacher, or you think it's the soft skill that matter?
Soft skills are very, very important. I mean, put it this way. I'm a mathematician, so everyone knows about that. I can't even recall when's the last time I actually do a proper integration. Right. Okay. And that's my research. I really can't recall. But on the other hand, of course, especially now I'm in management and all that, so I use a lot of, for example, leadership, teamwork, networking, proper communication and all that. And you use these skills more often than anything else. Again, back to where I talk about your first job. Okay, your first job, you have to do research, you have to do teaching, you have to do administration. Administration covers a large amount of your time because you can envisage that your seniors will be bullying you, and then you'll be inundated with a lot of not very favorable job. And then you have to exercise all sorts of skills: communication, teamwork, network, leadership, commitment, you name it. So I think that's very important, and these skills would be useful and applicable in every job that you do. Everything. Go and ask one of your friends as an engineer, when's the last time they do a differentiation?
Probably in uni.
Probably in the last time is year 2 in the university, and that's not an application. They're just doing it for the examination.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
So but they will be meeting people, doing sales, solving other people's problems, and all of that. So unfortunately, in modern days university setting, I don't know why we are not very good at putting soft skills into our curriculum or into our package. Somehow we need to think about this. So back again, I think, in a community setting, halls or student halls or whatever, that actually provides the opportunity. Back to your, what's your first question again? I sort of lost it already.
So in PhD,
your so-called narrowness.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Well, number one, you're trained to be a PhD. You're supposed to be specialized. You're supposed to be in the top of in the apex of a knowledge pyramid. So that's not a problem. And in order for you to climb to that apex, you probably have picked up other skills of everything, anything anyway. I remember when I did my PhD viva, the examiner asked me to derive an equation. Well, actually, not an equation, derive many equations, okay, in front of it. I just have to screw it. And most of those equations are actually not directly related to my thesis. Okay, I mean, if the audience would like to hear, in fluid mechanics, this fundamental equation is called the Navier-Stokes equation. You know about that, and they asked me to derive it right away in front of them.
That is.
Okay, so basically, what is shown here is, in order for you to reach that apex, you should have picked up everything at the bottom.
Examples?
For example, I study my PhD thesis is about water waves, and all of that. So, and that's actually a very, very narrow part of fluid mechanics.
Yeah.
So, you're expected to know everything about fluid mechanics before you reach that point. So, and in a sense, you would expect that. Okay, for example, you get a PhD in biotechnology. Okay.
Chemical engineering.
Whatsoever. Chemical engineering. Okay, and you go for a job. Okay, and you will be an assistant professor in something else. When I ask you about chemical engineering as a student, I don't care what discipline you are in. I would expect you to give me an answer.
Yeah.
Okay. In a way, you expect the same thing. Again, I cited the taxi driver example. You take a taxi, you expect the taxi to know every road around the city, right?
You just have to figure it out.
You know, you can also the taxi driver say, no, I only know about Petaling Jaya or Kuala Lumpur. I don't know about Seminye. You know, what kind of taxi driver is that? You know, you sort of expect the same thing. So being narrow is not a problem. It's about when you reach that specialized area. You know, how broad have you equipped yourself during the 3 years of your PhD? And I think that's also the part of the training of being a PhD. Your PhD is not about only getting to your thesis, which is, as you said, a very, very narrow area in the vast field that you study, but actually to reach that point, you actually pick up all the fruits around. I think that's why you're given 3 years to pick up the fruits.
Right. Okay. So, Professor, if we put you in the hat of an employer, or if in the position to employ, which you do very frequently, what do you look at when you get a potential candidate? Do you look at his or her research background first, or at the same time research background and simultaneously you look how well they can teach? I mean, it's very important that a person, for an ideal candidate, they have both. So what's your opinion on this?
This is a very, very deep question, honestly, and it does vary with situation. Okay? Obviously, nowadays in every academia, so you will be looking for a strong research candidate. You know, so you have to have some kind of publications and all that. Now, it's not a competition of quantity or quality. No, it doesn't matter. But you have to show that you're able to publish, you're able to do independent research and all that. Okay, that's one. Again, in modern setting, and I think this is now changed in a positive sense, that we are seriously looking at good communicators, good teachers, and people who really has that passion to say, I want to be a good teacher. I can share with you. You don't know how many times we have heard this. Oh, I'm a very, very serious researcher. I commit 100% of my time on research and all that. I'm very good at this. Out you go. Because you spend 100% of your time in research, so you're not sparing any of your time for teaching and anything else. Yeah. So you're a mad scientist. So what I would say that, okay, I'll give you a postdoc job. You do your postdoc research and stay away from my students because you're not passionate enough to be committed to do teaching and grow students. And fortunately, especially as I said, for the past few years, the emphasis of good teaching, and maybe because of our setting, we are private universities, so that ensures that we have to deliver good teaching. So we cannot afford to have a person who's just purely doing research and delivers nothing else. Then, of course, we also need to know that these, and this is, I would say, the more difficult part, is to identify the person who is able to work with others. PhD is trained in a way that you are a lone wolf. You work on your own, okay, for a long time, solace, okay, in solitude, and you don't like to work with each other and all that. But as I said, at least a third of our university teaching work is about administration, and so you also look for people who is able to pick up these things. As I said, marketing, administration, data entry or whatsoever, and someone who's sort of committed into a teamwork. So we do look for a large amount of attributes. Clearly, and when of course research still stands out, but as I mentioned, is not about the research quantity or quality. You don't need to worry that, oh, my CV is not as strong as the others, so I lose out. No, it's not the
any minimum publication
no,
that you would expect?
There's no such thing. And again, quality is more important than quantity. If you're able to publish a good paper, I think it's very good. And honestly, from a PhD, I don't expect a lot. I would expect 1 or 2 journal articles of your own.
Yeah.
Will make all the perfect sense. I have come across students, PhD graduates, who said that they have 30 publications, their names is attached with, all sort of random articles. Again, we know that it's not his. And by the way, you have 3-4 years, you spend, I don't know how much time you spend on writing 30 papers. What exactly is the amount of time you left for your own research?
That's humanly possible.
It's, people, again, I think maybe it's a problem of this part of the world that we quantify a lot of things. No, it's definitely not about the numbers. It's about the quality. And it's also something, and don't be disappointed about this when you don't get a job. It's also about matchmaking. Again, we want to build, every university want to build clusters of research groups.
Right.
So we want to put people into research groups. It's more difficult now to say that, hey, I want to employ a single person for fluid mechanics, okay? Because he's unable to work with anyone else. So in terms of the growth of the research of the university, it does not help. So we also try to put people into groups as well. So research clustering. So one of the things that when you apply for a job is also to identify whether you can identify yourself as being part of the research team.
Right.
Okay. Don't say that I'm a very, very good researcher, I work alone, and all that. It doesn't work in modern university anymore. All of them would like to hear like, hey, I want to join this research team because 1 + 1 is more than 2 in a workplace. So it's about synergy. So and every university will be looking forward to building synergy. So that's also another area why sometimes you don't get a job because and you feel that you have a good CV is because they don't find a match between you and the existing group.
Right.
Just to cite you an example, this is a very extreme example, and I use this all the time. It shows us we can go so extreme. In Nottingham, UK, electrical engineering, they have approximately 50 staff in that school, 50 academics. 45 of them belongs to one research group, Power Electronics. They built the largest and the most successful power electronics, which is very narrow, in the world. That's how they cluster people. And then they have, one guy to teach electronics, one guy to teach electricity, and so on and so forth. Okay? That's how big universities build a research team. And you want to see, okay, how do I match? So if you apply, if you come from a telecommunication, you have a good CV, but probably they will not find you in very good use. So when you don't get a job, it also, it implies there's a lot of reasons.